All right, good evening. So this is the chronicle of a calling in images, taken from a drawing journal that I kept for 2 years in the 90s while I was wrestling with the call to leave city life for country life. So the psychologist James Hillman says, when you want to know what your soul wants, turn to your images. So, a call is the demand of the soul against the status quo. And in this particular case, it came in the form of my now ex-wife coming to me one day out of the blue and declaring that she wanted to move to the country. And like a good New Yorker, I said, "What country?" So this is my sense of disappearing into the void. So phase one of responding to a call is fighting it. Bilbo Baggins said it in the Hobbit, "We're just plain quiet folk. We have no use for adventures. Nasty, disturbing, uncomfortable things make you late for dinner." So this is an image of my anger at having my world rocked, as is this image. So I had lived in big cities my whole life, and leaving threatened my livelihood, my friendships, my teaching positions, my rent-controlled house in San Francisco, and my ability to get pizza and cannoli at 2 a.m. if I wanted it, which is really important to city people. So leaving, though, turned out to be as much a relationship call as a lifestyle call. And specifically the need to drop into relationship at a level I had not reached yet. And that flushed up some original wound stuff, like my relationship to my mother and my issues around healthy boundaries. So like dreams, the drawings had unconscious commentary in them that was telling me what I was really feeling about something, like that dark obstacle on the right looks suspiciously like a female torso. And so it told me that what I was fighting against wasn't necessarily my wife, but some deep feminine energy. And this is a breakthrough for our hero, an understanding of what he was really fighting against. And it was interesting that the call to leave city life for country life took us eventually to the desert, which is classically a place where people go for self-reflection, as in mirroring. So one of the primary fears that I had in moving to the country was losing income. And this is very surprisingly the image that came out when I sat down to capture in an image my relationship to money. This is a picture of my parents' divorce when I was 9, so the original breach in security, in a sense. And given that experience, it's no coincidence that 40 years later, I would feel like that, all right? When faced with a choice between passion and security, faith and fear, head and heart, just torn in two by my own hands. That looks painful, doesn't it? So in addition to obstacles, calls also feature allies, and this is a picture of one of mine. This is the spirit of playfulness. All right, and so after a year of power struggling over this move, I said to my wife one day, "Let's switch. I'm tired of being the bad guy. You take the voice of no for a year, I'll take the voice of yes." So another ally was a ritual that I conducted at the time. So my first book came out during this period, and I used it as a symbol for everything that I was attached to, and I wrote my obituary on the title page, and then tore it to shreds and burned it, which prompted my mother to declare that I was weird. So when I finally said yes to the call, and that meant moving from San Francisco to Taos, New Mexico, it literally doubled the size of my world. So there's 2 pieces of paper that it took to capture this image. And as you can see, I'm a little bit past the point of no return. And there's this, well, I'll leave that alone. So, foreshadowing. So the leap required a leap over my past, all right? My conditioning, my original wounds, all that stuff, and this is chronologically from top to bottom is past to present. And you can't really make it out. Hand of an enemy reaching for me on the left and an ally on the right. And so this is, when you say yes to a call, your obstacles are not magically swept away. You're tested. And this test for me was having to cope, having to manage the sense of feeling overwhelmed by the new land, which was country life to me. And not coincidentally, 9 months after moving to Taos, I began to emerge from some of those tests in the spring. And one of the idea was that moving to the desert, I had to face myself without distractions, which I realized in hindsight was a lot of what that call was about. And calls come bundled with a gift. And this is a talent that you realize, or a better mousetrap, something to bring back, in other words, to the tribe. And I kept having dreams at this point of this character, just a cupbearer kneeling and waiting for a couple of months. And then here comes the gift, all right? So that summer, I began writing a book called Callings, and completely changed my life, and would probably not have been written if I hadn't honored the call to move from the city to the country, which, needless to say, my wife was fond of reminding me of. This picture is from a dream that I had of she and I dancing with a basket of jewels. And while I was writing the book, she and I began teaching callings retreats at a place called Ghost Ranch, which is not coincidentally where Georgia O'Keeffe moved to from New York City in the 1920s, following a very similar call to mine. This looks like a setback, but it's not. This is me and my shadow, okay? All the hidden parts of myself that I simply befriended in following this particular call. Demons were originally daemons, that's Latin for soul, and they are allies or enemies depending on whether you receive them or reject them. And this is a strand of my daemon's DNA, okay? And the heart of paradox to some degree, the holding the tension within us. So faith and fear, passion and security, the daemonic and the demonic, all together. And finally, one part of me wants to awaken, one part of me wants to sleep. One part wants to follow my calls, one part wants to run like hell, all right? Saying yes put me on a path that half of me thinks doesn't make any sense, and the other half of me knows my life is not going to make sense without. Thank you.